Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Pulled Naughty James once again as I throw my headphones on and join us a little late after the Calgary Flames take down a very, very strong team in the Pacific leading Los Angeles Kings. Your final score 3-1. And yes, it's another solo stream. We had one from Peter a little earlier, and now it's my turn to fly solo. But of course, it wouldn't be appropriate to start this show without a commemorance of what a day today is. Across this country and down in the States, it's Remembrance Day and Veterans Day down in the States. But I will be taking a moment to just take some time here with Game Over to just think about those who have lost their lives in service to their country, whether that be here in Canada or abroad. Also, take the time to remember those who are displaced by war and those who pass as non-combatants. So I ask that everyone that's here in chat and watching, however you may be watching this, whether it's live here or if you watch in the morning, take a moment to remember not just those who fought and died, but those who are displaced and those non-combatants who have also lost their lives. This is In Flanders Fields by John McCrae. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard, amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved, and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with those of us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. Thank you. And now with that, we are going to talk about the Flames and Kings that did battle on the ice, only because of the freedoms that were fought for. But before we do that, just got to do a quick little ad read. Check out the flagship show of Game Over Network on the Game Over Network channel, Hyperdrive Hockey. They cover all things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries, whatever and wherever it is. Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all of your hockey news on the Game Over YouTube channel, or listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or check them out on the Hyperdrive Hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. And hey, you have to think the Flames upsetting the top seed in the Pacific might get talked about over there. But before we go and talk about how this game broke down, let's go through your scoring summary. Michael Backlund opened the scoring after a scoreless first with a very, very similar goal to the game that tied the game in Buffalo. Just a quick turnover, absolutely roofed. And it was a beautiful goal, unassisted goal officially, but Back's starting to heat up after a 12-game scoring drought, I think it was mentioned on the broadcast. So good to see the captain get his fourth of the year. Then only 36 seconds later, a beautiful pass from Andrei Kuzmenko finds the stick at Jonathan Huberdeau. And Huberdeau, I'm going to admit, a little bit of a muffin, but it finds its way through, and the Flames are up to nothing. Only 36 seconds, as I said, between the goals. And this is against Darcy Kemper, who came into tonight's game with a .914 save percentage, a 2.61 goals against average. And honestly, this game could have been a lot worse if not for that Kings goaltender. But yeah, it's not the most authoritative shot that I've ever seen from Jonathan Huberdeau. But then it was a mostly scoreless third period until, with under 3 minutes to go, Trevor Moore breaks the Dustin Wolf shutout bid. And I gotta say, this gave me 2004 flashbacks. I think every Flames fan has like PTSD around the world parallax angles. And if the angle that the goal was called in was the one from the back net cam that pointed down towards the goal line, if that goal counts and 2004 didn't, Marty Jelena, I'm standing up for you. That goal shouldn't have counted. Should have maintained Dustin Wolf's shutout. But I think Dustin Wolf will care more about the W than he did about the 0 goals. And then Kevin Rooney ices it. Assists to Michael Backlund and Matthew Coronato. And I gotta say, huge shout out to Matthew Coronato. Came out of the box with hustle, caused the turnover along the boards, and that's another player who's been evolving leaps and bounds. And we'll talk a little bit about 2 young Flames a little bit later in the show. But that's all she wrote, and I just gotta give it one of these. Because, oh boy, was that a gem of a performance by the young Calgary Flames netminder. Obviously wasn't overly tested, not seeing his first shot until 11 minutes into the first period. But goaltenders are creatures of habit. Sometimes when they see more shots and face more rubber, they're more tuned into the game. And Dustin, well, let's call it the 50 minutes of ice he had to tend between the pipes. He was sharp. When you see your first shot 11 minutes in, and then the next shot you see is a breakaway attempt from a veteran Kings player, like, that's not easy for goaltenders to do. Especially for ones that have been in the position that Wolf has, where it's going back and forth between him and Dan Vladar. You're not allowed to really consistently have that mentality of, I am the guy that I believe I am, that this fan base has thought he is, and that the scouts saw throughout his tenure in the WHL. But I gotta say, Dustin Wolf only saw 7 shots through that first period, but according to the NHL and the Amazon broadcast, out of the 7 shots he faced in the final 10 minutes, there was 4 high danger chances against. So, big shout out to the small statured goaltender. And there was something else that was on this broadcast that kind of made me think that maybe that Monkier needs to fall off. Because yes, he's only 6 foot tall. But if you look at society in general, that's not small. It's just small when you consider the average NHL goaltender is 6'4" these days. But if you guys watched on Amazon today, you saw the second intermission interview with Calgary Flames legend, retired number Mike Vernon. And God, I loved watching the replay of that fight between him and Patrick Waugh, but that's neither here nor there. Mike Vernon isn't overly tall. I've met Mike a couple of times. He came in to my school a couple of times when I was growing up. I've been lucky enough to run into him at a couple social events as well. And he is not an overly tall goalie, and he's still remembered quite fondly. Yes, it's a new era. Yes, it's a different day and age in the NHL completely. But Mikey was a battler, and that's not necessarily the strength of Dustin Wolf's game. Not that he isn't a competitive guy. He's more of I have one of the best positionings of any goaltender in the world, and I'm going to beat you that way rather than battle. But we saw late in this game, Dustin Wolf, all 6 foot of him, keeping every puck out except for one that crossed by less than an inch, if I had to estimate. So maybe it's time to really push back on that short goaltender and maybe put him at number 1. But that is what I saw out of a young Calgary Flames goaltender. Shout out to Anand joining us in chat. But yeah, that'll be it for period number 1. My little scoring breakdown and a shout out to Dustin Wolf. We'll head to period number 2. If I can hit the right overlay button. There we go. But that also just means I have to do a quick another ad read. Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community inclusion and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available below in the description. You will find a link to our Patreon page. And we're also continuing to work and update our LaRouche profile. If you don't know what LaRouche is, it's very similar to Kickstarter, but it's based in Quebec and has links to the Quebec government. If we can raise $15,000 in funds, it opens a whole bunch of grant money. So we're asking you to save up a couple extra pennies. I'm going to use the what my parents have been saying. Just don't buy so much coffee or don't buy your energy drinks. Save it up. Add it to our LaRouche. Allow us to employ a lot of great companies. Or not a lot of great companies. A lot of great people in this great company that we're starting to bring the local back to local sports media. If you have any ideas for what you'd see as giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, let us know in the comments. And if you put it in live chats, I'll relay it to Andrew Berkshire. Trust me, I'll probably change a few words. But if you don't want to just throw it in the comments, you can head over to Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky. We're now a lot more active on Blue Sky. And as well, we do have our official Game Over Discord server. So please check it out. Save up a couple extra dollars. And, we'll be repaying you in kind. Also heard there's maybe some exclusive video content coming. And now I'm also going to use this intermission break to recognize that we really need to go pry the City of Champions off of the City of Edmonton display if it's still around. Congratulations to Calgary's own Cavalry FC taking down Forge FC on Saturday. If you didn't get to watch that one, go watch the highlights. It was actually on CBC for soccer in this country, which is weird. So a huge shout out to the Southern family and the players, coaching staff, and fans like myself of Cavalry FC, bringing home another trophy to this amazing city of ours. So, there's a youth movement over at Cavalry. There's a youth movement happening in Calgary with the Flames. As it was pointed out in chat by Matt C., Zary and Sharky showed some chemistry tonight. Would like to see some more of that. I don't know how Zary didn't score tonight. The Ultras pulled the fire alarm at Forge's Hotel. Is that after the game or before? Because Frontline Ultras are, I love those guys. Not my group. But Connor Zary, as you pointed out, how he didn't find his name on the score sheet, maybe one of the great mysteries of hockey. Because he was all over the puck tonight. Like, I think if he had shot instead of putting the backhanded pass over to Igor Sharangovich, or was that Sharangovich who was with him on the 2-on-1 in the first period? Regardless, if he had shot that puck, I think his name is on the scoring sheet in the first period. But he was flying, and he has some of the best hands that I've seen in a long time. I don't think he quite does the puck flip in the air the same way that Johnny Gaudreau does before games. But definitely the hands were moving faster than the Kings could keep up with. And I gotta say this again, this is not the LA Kings of the last few years. This is a very competitive squad, propelled by some very good goaltending. So this win is a statement for the Calgary Flames. I asked on X or Twitter, is this the most complete game the Calgary Flames have played this year? We'll answer that question in the third period. But if I'm just evaluating Connor Zary's game today, I'd say yes. The other player that I've already sung their praises for one defensive play, Matthew Coronato. This is a player that just continues to find his game at the NHL level and just can't be stopped. Like, obviously he had that brief little ship down to the A, and ever since then, ever since he's gotten onto that Backlund bump, the CBC line, I think people are calling it now. He has had a rapid growth into an everyday NHL player. This is a player that I did advocate for, maybe going and catching some popcorn. But I don't think there's a way you can take him out of the lineup at this point. His defensive game is growing by leaps and bounds. Like that takeaway that led to the empty net goal was a very heads-up play by a very young player. Obviously, I wish he wasn't in the box after that scrum after the LA goal. But that's how you make up for a little bit of a transgression in the last 2 minutes. And is it as much of a transgression as you think when you're already down a man, but allows the 4 penalty killers to ice the puck in the last 2 minutes? It's kind of a give and take when you think of it that way. But those are 2 young players who I think are being given all the opportunity in the world and are making the most of it. As well, I'm glad to see Adam Klapka's back up. Obviously, nobody likes the news about Anthony Mantha going down for the rest of the year with an ACL sprain. But it does kind of clear up some of the congestion for the Flames that was happening with some of these young players. It gives you a clear spot to maybe move Coronato in to get him that middle 6 minutes opportunity. Now, is this the ideal lineup for Ryan Huska? I don't think by any stretch of imagination this will be the final blender we see pulled out with this lineup. But it's certainly a improvement over what we saw. And obviously, you feel awful for Anthony Mantha. This was I'm going to come to Calgary. I'm going to play with Jonathan Huberdeau. I'm going to be the Huberdeau whisperer, as Peter Klein so often puts it. But comes up with an injury, ends his season. It sucks. But it's kind of got to be the next man up mentality. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the youth movement of this team. I want to see Adam Klapka draw back in. As much as I'm happy for Kevin Rooney to go and score that goal to ice the game today, and obviously we're probably going to see a huge Runes report and some tweets about Italian hands or something coming from our friends over at the Scorch Stack. I like seeing the size that Adam Klapka brings, so you have to think that might be a change for the Flames that we see as early as potentially tomorrow. Reminder, yes, the Calgary Flames do play again tomorrow, and it is a road game over. We found a way that you can host these videos in the Game Over Calgary, so if you want to watch it, you can watch it from the Game Over Calgary. But I think the chat, if you want to ask your questions tomorrow for Kaya and Peter, 2 veterans, you're going to have to go over to the Vancouver chat. I know it's icky. It smells like salmon over there. But cut on over there to enjoy that game over tomorrow. That's a little bit of a good transition to talk about one of our other Game Over family members. The Game Over crew in Ottawa, Charlie, Maud, Nick, and Damien, bring you post-game for one of the other exciting teams in Canada, fighting and scrapping for their lives. They've also got some amazing graphics and some fun stuff. Welcome Mace Taggart to the chat. But if you want to go get sensed with the Ottawa crew, they're some of the funniest human beings on the planet. So even if you're not a Sens fan and you've got about a half hour to kill, go watch that crew and either commiserate in their misery, because sometimes that's when the Sens community is at their best, in my opinion. But like Maud and Charlie, like they've got some amazing transitions. Like when they do the period change, they have a buzzer, because Charlie and Maud are OBS wizards. But check them out, and remember, check out all of the Game Over Network at thegameovernetwork.com. Say you even got some friends and family that are into the Oilers for whatever reason, point them in the direction of Game Over Oilers. Got some awesome staff up there, but obviously try and convert them to the one true fan base in Alberta. But that will take us to the third period of tonight's show. Do we change anything for Vancouver? I've already talked about the one change I could see with Klapka coming into the lineup. But other than that, I might want to see maybe Bean come back in over Barry. Obviously, that changed how your power play could look for the second unit. If you've been around this stream long enough when I'm on them, power play 2 is the bane of my existence as it is. Obviously, they were a little bit better today in the 2 opportunities, but still no power play goals. And I just think giving Rasmus Andersson the power to be the go-to trigger option for that unit number 2 instead of having to kind of pass that over to Barry seems to be a little bit more successful in my mind. And I'm just going to head on over to X here because I think that Mike Gould, who was on the show for Utah, had a good point. He had a pretty interesting power play unit. I would like to see the Flames switch to a top power play unit of Zary, Sharangovich, Coronato, Kadri, and Uyghur. Thank you so much for your subscription, Mace. Thank you for joining our team and helping us rebuild local sports media across Calgary and across the country. But that's a kind of an interesting switch to me. Because if you listen to me, you listen to Peter, you listen to Matt, you listen to Anand, we've all been kind of beating a similar drum. Power play unit number 2 is full of sadness and despair and makes us want to decline power plays. So, and our power play 1 isn't that much better. So what does it really hurt if we are going to switch up the power play units? Give the kids who have this high ceiling but are still building, give them the chance to get their cookies. Give them a chance up a man to just say, hey, we're going to go out and be offensive superstars with the leadership of Kadri and Uyghur. As well, that takes pressure off of Jonathan Huberdeau and whoever you put on that second unit. Because then that would leave Huberdeau, Anderson, probably Kuzmenko. Probably have to have Backlund and Coleman. I don't mind that as a theoretical second power play unit. Is it the most cohesive 5 players that you want on power play 2? No. Is our current power play 2 making it impossible for them to be changed? Also no. So hey, maybe that's the way the Flames need to go to build this season. Adam, thank you for joining us. And no apologies. No need to apologize for being late. I went right as soon as the puck was dropped because I know we all got to get back to work tomorrow after a long weekend. And I'm sure none of us are happy about that. I got to be back on Zoom class at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Isn't that lovely? But we are going to head to our overtime segment after our next ad read. If you have any questions, please throw them in the comments and I will break them down in addition to the one I asked myself. So please, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you want to put a little shine on your favorite Calgary Flame tonight, go ahead and do that. But we all know we all support our Calgary Flames, but what better way to support something you love than to rock it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of the retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, which is still on sale, or want to wear your love for goalies like Dustin Wolf proudly, check out our Live and Die by the Goalie design. Or hey, if you need just another coffee mug to get you through the winter that will eventually come, I've been told, we've got mugs available as well. I didn't even put up our merch, so I'll let this run for a bit. We'll take a look through it. If you hit that QR code down in the bottom corner, that'll direct you directly to the Game Over Flames designs. I was going to wear mine today, but the championship sort of... But anyways, Use that QR code on screen, look through the apparel store, and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. I want to get that goalie, live and die by the goalie on the hoodie. I think that looks phenomenal. But I'll let this run as we start our game over overtime period. Let me make sure that I don't give you all the intro buzzer again when I switch back. Let's do that now. Yes! Did the technology right. Happens once in a blue moon for me. But yeah, so I did ask via X if this was the most complete game the Calgary Flames have played this season. And of the games that I've been on Game Over, I can certainly say yes, because I had the quote-unquote honor of doing that Seattle game where the Flames completely fell apart. But I think this was, from end to end, one of the few times the Calgary Flames have played an entire 60 minutes of hockey. The only other game I can think that the Flames played a full 60 would be the Michael Backlund game 1001 after the ceremony. And I think that's what my joke was, that the Flames finally started on time because they couldn't start late because they had a half-hour ceremony to sit through. I'm really impressed with every single line that played today, like even down to the fourth line. Obviously, Rooney getting the goal. I thought Lomberg was noticeable. Kirkland had a fight. Well, if you can call it a fight, there was like 3 punches thrown through the whole hug fest. But yeah, incredible game, start to finish. Something the Flames coaching staff, I hope, are happy to build on. I hope to see it after the short jaunt over to Vancouver tomorrow. Just answering a couple questions in chat. General NHL question. Tonight the effort was amazing from the Flames. Why is it so often that we see professional hockey teams lacking effort? They're literally paid for an elite effort. Yeah, I think that's a tough one to answer. I can answer for matinees, because hockey players, just like many of us, are creatures of habit. If they don't get their mid-afternoon nap and they don't get their pasta with tomato sauce just right, sometimes that seems to throw hockey players off. But yeah, it seems to be a kind of a key theme for a lot of teams that are slow off the get-go. I think early in the season, it's easy to blame not meshing correctly. But I don't think we're in that scenario any longer. I think the other common, I'm not going to call it a get out of jail free card that athletes use, but the common excuse is, for games like today, this is the first time we've seen the Kings, so it's kind of that we're stancing up, we're kind of trying to evaluate the opponent, but I think that's a lot of hocus pocus trying to pull the wool over people's eyes as well. So at the end of the day, I'm sorry, Adam, I can't really give you a blanket answer, but I think a lot of it is not wanting to be the first team to make a mistake. Even though you're an elite athlete, you're skating against 5 elite athletes, 6 elite athletes, including a goalie on the other side of the puck, so you don't want to be the first team to blink. So I think that leads to a lot of trepidation in a lot of players, so they don't come out of the gates as fast as they could. But hopefully with an effort like today, the Flames can see that an early effort leads to success. So I hope that's a good enough answer for you, Adam. Toke, number 1. If Bennett was able to do a pull-up, Draisaitl would have fallen to us in the draft. Would we have went to the final? Oh, Sam Bennett. The wonderful, I am going to get a 2-minute stick infraction every game, if not every second game, because I couldn't do a pull-up. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, the world would be a different place. Trying to get to the crystal ball into my vision here. The Flames with Draisaitl down the center would have allowed Sean Monahan to probably go to the wing, drop Elias Lindholm down if that Lindholm trade even happens. So you have a top line of probably in my brain, Monahan on the wing, or Monahan as 2C. You probably have a better shot that the Flames were a little bit more playoff successful in the Monahan Gaudreau era, but I don't think it's as cut and dry as that. But it is a good thing to kind of think about. Like how if Robin Regeer doesn't get in a car accident, he isn't the future considerations out of the Theron Fleury trade. Like, it's the butterfly effect, really. If one thing changes, how is the world a different place? And then Tkachuk, Gaudreau, and Dry could leave us at the same time exactly. And our hearts would be broken all over again, and we'd still have the terrible Jonathan Huberdeau that we've had for the last 2 years. I also saw this on X that I'm going to bring up here in this period. This was a really decent performance. I'm not going to call it good, because for his salary, every game should be baseline good. But this was a decent performance from number 10. Yeah, he scored. As I said, it was a muffin. Came off the heel of his blade. So maybe he was just trying to throw a changeup through the pads of Kemper. And I actually thought he looked engaged today, because that's something that I have issues with Jonathan Huberdeau, is he has a lot of engagement issues. He doesn't drag himself into the play, rather relies on Mackenzie Weegar a lot of the time to drag him in, which is kind of weird. But yeah, I thought it was a very good game from number 10. I'll give a couple more seconds for a couple last chat comments. But before I do this, I am going to stick my podium down, put on my big boy shoes, and have a talk with you, Flames Nation. We need to stop doing the wave when we only have a 2-goal lead. We have seen it so many times when this fan base insists that we cannot sit in our seats and cheer on this team to victory. We need to get our arms up in the air and pretend we're a wacky arm-inflating waitable tube man from the Family Guy show. And we get scored on. And quite frankly, we had a team that was putting a boatload of pressure on us for the entire final 4 minutes after we all decided we needed to stand up in unison. It's backfired on us so many times. Flames fans, do we need to ban the wave? Like, just straight up, so we don't get the curse put up on us? That's my opinion. I know I was in a little bit of a debate with another fan that said that we should only do the wave when we're up by 4 or more goals with 2 minutes or left. 2 minutes or less left. No, that's too complicated. Just ban it. Get rid of it. I'm all for fans cheering. I'm all for fans getting loud, but we've seen it too many times in that saddle-shaped dome that when the Flames fans do it, we jinx games. No, Harvey the Hound is not a part of this whatsoever. Well, yes and no. In general, he's not. But he can. But I found that the Flames organization doesn't do it unless they're up 4 goals. So they follow that rule, maybe. The wave has origins dating back to soccer in the United States. It actually has a much worse name if you ask people down south of the border. I don't know how it got introduced to Calgary. I'm sure the '88 Olympics have something to do with it. It's a show of togetherness. We're all doing this ridiculous motion together to show support for our team. I just think it's time to take that one out behind the woodshed and get rid of the curse. But that is just my 2 cents. Going once, going twice, and gone for questions. That means I am gone for the night. Remember, fans, I told you, we've got another game over tomorrow. We now know of a way to host it here on this channel. If you want to get in the chat, you're going to have to go over to Game Over Connects. Likely will be Peter still hosting, so he'll probably still have all the Flames branding. But it's Peter and Kaya running that one. Puck drop, it's a late one, so hopefully you don't have too much work on Wednesday. 8 p.m. puck drop for the game that's taking place in Vancouver. So without further ado, I will let you head to bed. Have a great work week. The Flames take this one. Final score, 3-1. Hey, you know what? I lied. I have one more thing to say. Hopefully you're still around, because the Game Over Network actually had an addition. We would like to congratulate the 2042 first overall selection of, I just forgot the name, but Audie James, the original host of Game Over. He just had his firstborn son. So on behalf of myself and all of us in the Game Over Network, we would like to congratulate Audie James and family on the birth of Luca James Howlett. So congratulations, Audie. Being a dad looks good on you.